Hi, guys. Welcome to the chat. I know some of you are not signed on yet, and that's because I'm starting 30 minutes early, but I welcome you still. Welcome to the chat. It's been a while. I've been out of the office and off for the past 2 weeks. Then I got sick. Then some other stuff happened, and I just totally lost touch with you guys, and I wasn't able to get back to you, before I left to come back to work from vacation. So I'm kind of glad to be here tonight. I'm a little bit tired. So if you hear me stuttering, that is why. I've just been really bogged down with a lot of stuff in the office, outside of the office. But hopefully, as I talk, you guys will get those notifications and you'll trickle over to, this channel from wherever you are. So I will wait. Thank you so much, Cherries a Jubilee, for starting off the conversation. Hello, I see you in the chat box. Welcome. And I'm going to ask you guys too some questions about your own holidays. So stay tuned for that. Because let me tell you, I came back to the office on Tuesday. I was sick Monday, so I came back into the office on Tuesday, and I was really inundated with phone calls and emails and tweets and comments on YouTube about how difficult it was to get through the holiday. And I asked at least five of my, the people that consult with me, five of my own clients, what happened? And the number one thing that they told me, thank you so much. I see you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I am feeling a whole lot better. The number one thing that they all said to me, all five of these individuals said, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that I connected with my family over the holiday. And my question back to them was, why? What's going on? And so I'm going to get into some of the things that I'm sure came up for you as well. Hello, Chatty Chicky. I see you. Hello, welcome to the chat. So I'm sure it's not just my clients and the people who consult with me that were struggling with the holiday. I'm sure it was you guys as well. So we're going to jump into, a few things there. I also want to talk to you about detoxing, distancing, and really kind of putting this firm, healthy, respectful boundary in place so that you don't have to feel overwhelmed by an unhealthy family dynamic. I try to put this out here every time I do a live chat or a video that I love good parents. I love families that are really trying to be good. They're trying to love. They're trying to be compassionate. They're trying to embrace you. Where I have a problem with families is when they are manipulative, when they triangulate, when they create chaos, when there's pathological lying, when there's unresolved narcissistic behaviors, or there's sexual abuse in the family or any kind of other abuse. That's when the critical Tamara comes out, and I start pinpointing what I think is wrong in these families. And so that's what you're getting on my channel most of the time, the things that are wrong with families, right? But I do love good families. I know it could seem like I don't, but I do. Ronald Zion, hello, blessings to you too, and Happy New Year as well. Blessed in every area of my life. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you as well. Let me know, guys, how you felt about this holiday. And since you guys are just signing on, I'll just briefly mention most of my clients and some of the people that consult with me, they didn't like the holiday. They didn't want to be engaged with their family at the level that they were. And so one of the complaints, among many, but one of the complaints that stood out to me with one of my clients is every time I try to go to a family gathering for the holidays, it ends up bad every time. She has this positive view of it, and then when she gets there, she's like, oh man, why did I even fall for this? Right, I shouldn't even answer the invitation. So that's what we're dealing with here. So we're going to talk about that tonight, and then I'm also going to talk about how to detox and distance. So let's see. I'm going to mess this up, and I am. Jern Davis, I think I got that right. Hello, welcome to the chat. Happy New Year to you as well. There are three concepts that I want you to kind of keep in mind. I'm going to turn this off. Hopefully this doesn't ruin how you can see me. It's blinding me. Okay. I can hardly see on this side. But I want you to kind of think of and embrace three different concepts as I go through this with you tonight on the live chat. The first concept is cognitive dissonance. Now, I talk about this on this channel a lot as well, not as much as I need to. So let me give you a little bit of a definition. Cognitive dissonance is the idea that there's something going on in your life and you are having two states of inconsistent thoughts. Two states of inconsistent thoughts. Here's an example of that. My mother, for example, is good most of the time, but there are other times where she's angry, she's impulsive, she's manipulative. I don't know how to connect with her. And yet, there are times when she's everything I need. Another example would be my cousin is so giving. She donates to organizations. She's always giving people money during the holidays. She doesn't mind spending. But when it comes to me, she's selfish, she's rude, she's stingy, if you will, for lack of a better word. She doesn't know how to be giving and loving towards me. So let's say that you have these two opposing sides in your mind about a family member. Cognitive dissonance is basically I can't manage those two inconsistent opposing views. And so therefore, I'm probably going to drop the bad view and I'm going to uphold that good side because that's the only thing that really makes sense to me at this time, or that's the only thing that helps me resolve my reality, right? I can deny my reality just by grabbing a hold of that positive thing and dropping that negative side of everything. So it's two states of inconsistent thoughts. This is something that happens when either you're trying to walk away from your family because they're unhealthy or toxic, for lack of a clinical term, or you've walked away and there are times when you feel like you want to go back. And there's a lot of families, a lot of individuals within families, and a lot of family dynamics, excuse me, that involves that, right? It's I'm going to walk away, but I don't know how to do it, or it's I've walked away and I still feel like I want to be involved in some way. Okay, so keep that in mind. Cognitive dissonance. Now, detox, if you just Google it, okay, detox is a period of time when you abstain from something, right? So you're getting a detox by being away from your unhealthy, toxic, complicated, possibly narcissistic and sociopathic family, right? Because it could be all of those things, right? So you're getting away from your family, you're not engaging with them. There are some individuals, and I know you guys are familiar with this idea, that there are some individuals who say, you know what, I'm done with you. You hurt me, you backstabbed me, or you weren't the good parent that I needed you to be, or you're always here to make me, feel guilty about something I did. Whatever the scenario in your family, the idea is this usually that I'm going to walk away, but how do I stay away without feeling guilty, without feeling like I've left somebody behind, without being judged by society for being a negative or bad family member? How do I walk away and be okay with that and accept that and deal with the guilt and deal with the self-blame and deal with the anger, right? Because sometimes during that detoxing period, you may feel all these emotions on the inside, right? And all the emotions could be anger and confusion and hurt and dissatisfaction. And, there's a whole lot of other emotions that I can mention. When you detox or you move away, you're abstaining from being in communication with them. I think the point I was trying to make earlier, let me go back briefly, is that whenever you are abstaining from family member, you may have these internal feelings that causes you to go back, but you always want to ask yourself, is it worth me going back? I missed that point at the beginning of the chat. The other idea that I want you to think about is distance. Okay. So cognitive dissonance, detox, and distance. Distance is space between two things, space between you and your family. Okay. So that's all we're talking about in today's video. And I want you to keep those in mind as we go along, because it's going to make sense as we go along why I want you to keep those three things in mind. Okay. Let me go to the chat box. I don't want to get behind on comments like I usually do. Hello, One Love. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Let me look. Oh, Ronald Diane says, wow, I was just reading about cognitive dissonance. Yeah, absolutely. I think most of us can Google the term cognitive dissonance, and we're going to come up with two different definitions. You want to keep in mind with cognitive dissonance that there's a psychological cognitive dissonance, and then there's a just like the generalized definition of cognitive dissonance. The psychological theory of cognitive dissonance is, again, kind of being in a state of confusion, having, two states of inconsistent thoughts that causes a change within you, right? It causes a change within your mind. And it's really hard for you to pinpoint what you need to do. So that's the psychological version of cognitive dissonance. Okay, Marquisa Stewart, hello, welcome to the chat. Happy New Year to you too. Glad to see you. Says Happy New Year, everyone. I'm glad you're doing better and well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, much better. Nothing 2 weeks vacation couldn't cure. Queen Sunshine, hello. Blessings to you as well. Welcome to the chat. I'm says, oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. Marquis Stewart says, oh, yeah, my ex in laws trying to get back close. So I chose to deal with them accordingly and distance. Yeah, we're going to get to that in 5 minutes. Okay. We're going to get to some of the things you can do to detox and distance. I'm says, I stayed at home alone, so happy I did spend time on Zoom. Thank you, Zoom. My birthday was 28th December. Hello. I'm glad you said that. And I think I may have welcomed you at the beginning, but if I did not, hello, welcome to the chat. The 28th, happy belated birthday. You're probably not at the age that I am, where you're like, I don't want to celebrate this day. Okay. Just act like it's not happening. Let me sleep. She says, thank you, Doc. I took your advice. Happy New Year. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad to hear that. Daryl Satifer, awesome choice of subjects. Thank you very much. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Kimberly Davis says, I had to cut out all of the unhealthy, toxic relationships out of my life for my own mental, emotional, and physical well-being. I just couldn't handle being abused anymore. Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't take those steps that I'm going to give you in this live chat tonight, then it's possible that you get stuck in there and you can't get out. And that's known as traumatic bonding. Traumatic bonding, briefly, is the idea that I'm so entwined with my family or so entwined with that person, whoever that individual is within your family, that I can't make an escape. I can't make a break and run for it because I'm so entwined with them emotionally. I feel dedicated to them. I feel like I owe them something, or they've made me feel guilty for walking away in the past, or they've violated me in some way, sexually, emotionally, psychologically, physically. And so in some way I feel indebted to them in some twisted, skewed kind of a way. And so I can't make a break for it and run. So then what do? You kind of stay there until enough is enough. And like you, Kimberly, you say, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. And that's usually what happens in most circumstances. Larry Cork, hello. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you so much for that. Welcome to the chat. I also see Pastry Pick Tea. Hello. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Says, I would like to get away from my narcissistic family, but I have no friends, no support, no job, no car, and very isolated. So it is hard on me. Oh, yeah. That is difficult. And I'll bring that up a little bit if I can remember to as we go along in this chat tonight, because in some ways you can't always escape your family, right? It's just not possible. Think of it this way. It's like a husband and a wife divorcing. You have 5 kids together, for example. Do you really think that a divorce is going to separate you two? No, you're going to be together, but you're not going to be together. And so, separating from family can be really difficult in the same way, right? Because you can't always run. So I will try to bring up some things that might be supportive and helpful to you tonight. All right. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Let's jump in, guys. Okay. Because I know you're eagerly waiting. I see quite a few people waiting. So we're going to just jump on in. Okay. So in detoxing and distancing from your family, especially after the holiday, let's say you engaged with your family and now you're feeling worn out, right? Now you're feeling overwhelmed. And let me just fit this in here briefly. I don't feel necessarily overwhelmed because of family, because I've learned over time to kind of cut, I'll use that as an example, cut out a part of my holiday for myself, and kind of say, you know what, I'll spend some time over here with you. I'll spend maybe 5 minutes over there hugging you and telling you hello and giving you a gift. But guess what? About 7 hours of my Christmas day is between me and my close family. And that's kind of the way that I've learned over time to kind of cut down on how I'm feeling about the holidays. Holidays are beautiful, but if you have an unhealthy family, they're not so beautiful. So you need to be able to cut that time out, you know? So that's why I'm not feeling overwhelmed and what's the word, stressed out. But you may be, if you spent some time with your family, or maybe you kind of desire to spend that time with them. So what do you need to do to kind of get back in the right mindset, in the right zone? Well, the first thing I suggest is to reflect. Now, you want to reflect on the facts, because the situation that maybe you were in or that you're in can kind of create quicksand in your lives. It can kind of sink you if you're engaging with family members who are unhealthy for you, right? Because think of it this way: if you don't reflect on the facts and you're so wound up in all the emotions and you're wound up in all the drama, how do you escape emotionally and psychologically if your mind and your emotions have you stuck? Right? I have someone who consults with me every year or so, and she went to see her family, thought maybe they could get along this time. Went there, mom said something wrong, dad said something wrong, brother said something wrong, her cousin was there and jumped on the bandwagon, and then she had this overwhelming emotional breakdown. And what I said to her was this: that if you don't reflect on the facts, you're going to sink. It's like, trying to stand up on quicksand. You're going to keep getting sucked down, right? There's no foundation, there's no concrete anything. It's all emotion. And when you get sucked in and buried under that emotion, you can't see. Right? It's like having blinders on. And I've talked about this on my channel many times in the past. Those blinders just blind you, right? Because all you see in that moment is how you're feeling in here. It could be your ego, your pride, your self-esteem. It could be, oh my God, I'm having a flashback to the way you used to treat me, whatever the case, right? Being caught up in those emotions is like quicksand. It sinks you, right? So you want to be able to reflect. You want to be able to go to the sidelines and rationalize and try to get the facts back, so that you understand that, okay, this is something maybe that they are doing to me or have done to me, but in a logical sense, what really happened there? How do I need to see that? How do I need to see that experience? So here's what I told the person who consults with me once a year: I know you're upset. I know you're crying. I know you're having suicidal thoughts. I know you're feeling overwhelmed. But let's look at this for a second. Okay. Why do you think dad made that comment towards you? And she was able to go back in her mind and say, you know what? That's because I sent him the letter 3 weeks before Christmas and this, that, the other happened. I said, exactly. So he's trying to get back at you, right? Why do you think mom called you that name? What do you think is going on there? And she came up with an explanation. So really, I was pulling her out of the emotions and trying to get her to reflect and focus on the facts and the rationalization of what's going on. And sometimes that can be helpful. So that's step number one. Step number two is rely on unbiased sources. Have you had an experience where you're trying to detox and distance from a family that's unhealthy, or you're trying to set a boundary, a healthy boundary, and all you have are family members telling you that you're doing the wrong thing, or you're being rude or disrespectful, or you're being unloving, or you're not being a team player, or you're not being a part of your family? Have you ever had that happen to you? I'm sure you have. In that moment, right? In that moment, I'm sure you're feeling kind of guilty, negative, beat up on, ganged upon. The best way to escape that is don't rely on what they're saying, because they're part of your blood system, right? They're part of your family. They're part of trying to make the unit or the system work. You want to rely on unbiased or non-biased sources. A friend who's able to kind of be objective, a psychotherapist who's able to be objective, which I am for many of my clients. They call me, they text me, they're like, Tamara, this happened. How do I need to see this? And then because I'm not that close to it, I can step back a little bit, although I care about my clients. So sometimes I'm like, that makes me a little sad, or that makes me a little angry. But sometimes I can step out of that and say, you know what? Here's what's going on. Do you think that's what's going on? Does it feel like that clicks for you when I say that? And if so, this is what we need to do: A, B, and C. Maybe consider doing this instead. So I'm able to kind of talk them to a place where, they can be more rational. So you want to rely on those non-biased or unbiased sources. If you don't, then you're probably going to feel bad about what's going on and you're not going to get clarity. Now, you may have some family members who are objective, fantastic, but you also want to keep in mind, is that family member really objective, even though they seem to be? All right, let me jump into the comments section. We're going to come back to this. I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving out questions or I'm not clarifying. Maybe something that you guys need me to clarify. Um, okay, let me go back. Hmm. Okay. All right. Conversation. Hi, Aspen Walker. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Says, what should I call it if my mom got me in a tent and have my daughter lying to me? Ooh, that's a hard one. That's called triangulation. I mean, I understood half of that. What should I call it if my mom got me in a tent and have my daughter lying to me? Well, I would look up triangulation, and you can look that up on my channel. You can just Google triangulation. Really, what triangulation is it's when the manipulative person becomes the victim, and you guys may have experienced this within your family as well. The victim is the manipulator. The rescuer is the one in the family who just has a lot of mouth most of the time and can make decisions and may come off as a bully, for lack of a clinical term. And then the persecutor is you. You're the one on the outside pointing the fingers and causing the chaos. So you might want to look up triangulation. I have a ton of videos on my channel as well. So that might be helpful to you. I would need some time to kind of think on what you're asking me and then get some background information as well. Um, okay, Sean B, hello, welcome to the chat. Says, I grew up in a religious cult family where my parents cared deeper for the cult leadership than my own emotional and spiritual needs. When when excuse me, when I opposed the cult, I was put on psychiatric medication. Oh, interesting. I feel like there's some details in there, missing that could probably help me kind of reply to that. Let me just say that in families where you need to detox and you need to distance, religious trauma is often at the core. And I do have videos on my channel about religious cults and kind of what that does to you and how it messes with your head and messes with your self-esteem, right? So I'll try to post that in the description box for you. All right. Oh my God, I hit the wrong button. Seriously. I'm going to hire one of you and I'm going to be like, please sit next to me or be online or something and help me do this because I hit the wrong button every single chat. Thank God it hasn't been the delete button yet. All right. Sean Hammer, hello. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. Sean Hammer says cults are they are scourge on this earth. Is that am I saying that right? That looks weird to me from here. Well done for surviving the hell that they put you through, Sean. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Religious cults are psychotic in and of themselves. I'm going to drop this to you and you can Google it. I do have some videos on the channel. It's something known as shared psychotic disorder. And we no longer have that in the diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders. We no longer have it in there. And I don't even think I don't have my DSM with me or I would show it to you. It's titled something else and it's on like a spectrum with other psychotic disorders, but there used to be a specific criteria in the DSM that is called shared psychosis or shared psychotic disorder. And it's when individuals within a group, and it can occur within a family, they all tend to share the same psychotic views of something, usually something of the outside world. And those shared psychotic beliefs, excuse me, I'm going to learn to bring some water next time. Those shared psychotic beliefs end up destroying the person who's not psychotic. Shared psychotic disorder often includes one psychotic individual or one individual who is probably not well, they're unstable, and that other individual who's very, passive, quiet, maybe that person internalizes. And so that person kind of gets wrapped around the finger of the psychotic person or the individual with psychotic symptoms. And so then it becomes like this shared psychosis, so that can happen in religious cults, and it can also happen within families, which is a reason why you need to detox and distance from them. So you might want to Google that. Just learn a little bit more about that shared psychotic disorder, that shared psychosis. Okay, let's get back into this. Okay, guys. So we left off at having non-biased or unbiased sources. The next thing that I suggest is reflect. Now, some of my clients are like, "Are you serious, Tamara? Please don't tell me to reflect. I don't want to journal. I don't want to write anything. I want to fix this, And I often say, okay, hear me out. Reflection doesn't necessarily mean you sit in a chair, you sob, and you journal out your emotions. What I mean by reflect is take a little bit of time out of your night, take a little bit of time out of your day, maybe your lunch period, open up a piece of paper or a notebook, and just kind of get your thoughts down on paper. The way that I do it is I usually do this at nighttime when I'm on my way to bed, where I have clarity of mind. I'm ready for sleep. There's no distractions, no phone, no television, no nothing, right? There's nothing going on. It's just me and my thoughts in that moment before I go to bed. So that may be a helpful time for you. In that reflection, you want to be able to pull out a piece of paper and a pen, jot down what's going through your mind. So here's an example. Today, I did well at work. I made sure I smiled at everybody. I did really well. I functioned. I got through the day. However, in my heart, I'm feeling A, B, and C. I don't know why I'm feeling this again. Is there any way that I can get out of this? Okay. So that's the way you want to kind of take your journaling and your reflection. It doesn't have to be a journal, it could just be writing out your thoughts, but you just kind of want to go through your day. What happened and reflect. Was I angry with anybody? Did I feel miserable? Did my toxic, unhealthy family members do something to me over the holidays that I'm now internalizing and it's coming out at my work or it's coming out of my job? So you want to be able to reflect upon that. Without reflection, you don't grow, right? Because you don't know what happened to you maybe over the holidays or what you were going through psychologically and emotionally during that time. You don't really know how that impacted you until you can sit, think, and process. And that's often the power of psychotherapy. It's not me talking at you or me talking to you, it's me guiding you through your own exploration of what's going on in here and what's going on in here. So kind of think of it as this is my down meditate, a meditative moment. I think I'm saying that right. I'm saying everything wrong tonight, guys. Forgive me. This is my own moment to meditate and process, and this is where I need to do it so I can grow and feel better. So reflect. Okay. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you know what I mean. Reflect. Okay. You can also use self-help books to help you reflect as well. The next one I suggest is find the right education. You guys are doing really well on this channel tonight just by participating, talking with each other, supporting each other. You guys, there are tons of other psychotherapists on YouTube that are wonderful. Go to their channel, search for these same topics, go to a bookstore, find the books that you need, go ahead to a local library, a local college or university, and ask for books that are more academic. And this may be a little bit of a secret you may not have known. There are some universities in big cities where you can go into the library and you can ask to borrow books or ask to borrow articles. You can also buy articles that are more academic, where you can get the knowledge that I've gotten over the past 10 years of my career, or 10 years of my education, 14 years of my career. You can actually gain a little bit of access by going to a university library and seeing if you can borrow things. So get the right education. Make sure that you're not getting that biased view. Sometimes, and I want to say this in a way that's not offensive to any of you, because I really appreciate how you support each other and how you've made this a community with me. But you want to be careful with certain chat rooms, places online where you guys can connect and communicate, because sometimes what has the goal of being supportive can then turn to toxicity in and of itself, because there's no objective guidelines for that chat room. So you want to be careful with that. But test out a few chat rooms online that are, helpful to you, and see if it can be supportive. Okay. So find the right education. The other thing is I think that you need to be mindful, and I've done this over the years in my life. Be mindful of your verbal and your nonverbal communication. And I have a video coming up pretty soon where I'm going to give you some tips on how to manage communication with a toxic and unhealthy family. But you want to navigate the verbal and the nonverbal aspects of your space. So here's an example of that. Let's say, for example, a family member contacted you for Christmas, contacted you for New Year's. You want nothing to do with them, right? They've hurt you, they've demeaned you, they're condescending, the list goes on. The last thing that you want to do is pick up that phone, right? And say, you know what? It is Christmas. I think I'm going to go ahead and just text back, right? And there you go. What are you doing when you do that? You're reopening that door of pain for yourself, especially if your family is unhealthy, toxic, dysfunctional, the list goes on. So you don't want to text back. right? Because now you're offering that family member verbal communication, and now they can kind of get in a little bit, and maybe they're going to knock on that door again a couple of weeks from now, right? So you want to keep that in mind. The other thing too is, if you're around family members who are unhealthy, watch your body language, because sometimes body language can give off what you're not saying. And if you're a psychotherapist, or you're very keen, or you're very intuitive, you might be able to pick up on what body language is saying. Sometimes body language could, look like this, right? I want nothing to do with you, and your family members back there. Or sometimes body language can kind of be like, I'm really close to you, like up close and personal, because I miss you. So be mindful of your body language, because it says what you don't say. So you want to be mindful of that. All right, I'm gonna mention one more thing, then I'll go back to the chat box. Avoid triangulation. Here's how you do it. So anytime there's three or more people in a family situation or dynamic that's unhealthy, you want to avoid triangulation by kind of looking ahead and asking yourself, okay, who is likely to be the dramatic one in this unit right now, or this system, or at this holiday gathering, who is likely to be the one who's the they stir the pot, right? This is the one that gets the drama starting. Try your hardest to avoid them. Don't talk to them. Don't anything. And sometimes, if you can, without being disrespectful, you may not want to give long eye contact either. Just a nice hello, how are you, and go somewhere else. Or if you're already separated from your family, you don't want to communicate with that person who's dramatic in your family, histrionic, meaning theatrical, and you don't want to respond to their text messages, because people like this, the stir of all the chaos in a family who triangulates, is good at picking up the phone and texting and emailing and trying to set the record straight, and the list goes on. I had a family today who dealt with that over New Year's. The cousin thought that she could just pick up her phone, text her sister, and say, you know what? You're not being a good sister to mom and dad, and here's what I think is your problem. And unfortunately, it just made life really difficult for my I don't know how to call her. I think it's I'm going to say consultee, the person who's consulting with me. So just be mindful of that. That sometimes dramatic people, dramatic individuals within a family, dramatic people within a family, they know how to stir the pot by using text, by using email. The list goes on, and then that's how they triangulate. They put you in a triangle, and you can't get out. All right. Okay. Let me go back to the chat box. Guys, I don't want to miss any comments. Pastry Pink Tea says, I told my family that I want out of the narcissist family, and told them my plan, that I want a car, an apartment, and they are now playing me, saying that they're looking for a car and apartment, but they aren't. Oh, okay. Wow, that's a lot in there that I could comment on. That's a tough one, because in a sense, I'm just going to throw this out here for you to process. In a sense, you're kind of giving them power by asking them to honor your request. So you might want to process it a little bit, because that's probably why they're not looking, because you've kind of passed them the buck. You're like, the ball is in your court. Do this for me. And if I were a toxic, dysfunctional family member, I would make you wait for years. So you might want to think of that. You might want to think of it in that way. Maybe you've given them some power. I don't know. Hi, Sine. Welcome to the chat. I do see you. Welcome. Happy New Year to you. Laura D, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. Says, the enmeshment, the guilt, and the emotional manipulation were elevated in my family all the way to my mother's death. I was an unwanted child. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's painful. I will self-disclose and say that my mom always felt like the lost child, or she always felt like the unwanted child, between she and my uncle. And it takes a toll on you. It takes a huge emotional and psychological toll, because all throughout life, and maybe this happened to you, Laura D, all throughout life, it's like you have to constantly find your worth, reevaluate who you are, really feel that you're worthy. Because if you're unwanted, or you're the lost child in a family dynamic, you're going to feel useless or worthless, and all that. So it's checking and rechecking many times during your life. I'm sure it happened to my mom, what's my value and what's my worth. So that's a hard place to be in. Okay, I hit the wrong button again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm coming to you. All right. Sean B says, what made this more confusing? Oh, God. I'm like halfway through the sentence. Let me see if I can find you, Sean. Hold on. Okay, I'll come back to you, Sean. I have to find the other part of your sentence. Here's Sean Hammer. Sean Hammer says, I've got to go on now, Tamara. I was disregarded during the pandemic madness. Now I'm being guilt shamed for not being around. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. You want to keep in mind as you distance and detox from unhealthy family members that their first line of defense is to target you, because that's what human beings do when they feel defeated. The moment a human being feels defeated, or they feel outnumbered, or they feel minimized, what's that natural tendency? That natural tendency is to fight back. And sometimes family members do it well, right? They fight back in such a way that, you almost feel like you're losing or they're gaining on you, and you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say. And maybe you're feeling a little guilty because, you backed away from them, and maybe what they're saying is working somewhere in here, right? So, keep that in mind. That is something that happens in these kind of unhealthy, in toxic dynamics, that family members will push back and they'll do whatever they need to do to get you to feel like you made the wrong decision or that you're to blame. But if you keep it in the forefront of your mind that, okay, remember, I told you guys at the beginning, I suggested at the beginning as well, that you want to be able to pull away from the emotional side of all of that if you can, and become objective and look at the rationalizations of the situation, be more logical, right? Why are my family members coming against me right now? Oh, that's because I walked away and I told them I wanted nothing to do with them. And now they're feeling minimized. They're feeling like I'm being condescending. They're feeling like I'm becoming stronger without them. And so, therefore, I need to back away from the emotions and not let what they do or say affect me. That might be a nice way to kind of keep you on the right track. So I'm sorry to hear that, Sean Hammer. That's really devastating for most families when they tried to build a boundary. Okay, Cherry's Jubilee says, I agree. She's talking, this is like part of her sentence, but she's saying, I agree, triangulation and gaslighting. So Cherry's Jubilee is having a conversation with someone else in the chat box, and they're pointing out two important things. One is triangulation, which I've talked about already. The other is gaslighting. And I'm sure you guys know what that is. Gaslighting is the idea that, there's something going on between you and another person, and the other person tries to either minimize what you're saying to them as a problem, or they completely deny what's going on, and it's a problem. It's almost like this. Let's say you go to your father and you say, Dad, you've never been the kind of dad that I've ever needed. You've always been judgmental and harmful and bossy and controlling. And what do you think your dad's going to say to defend himself, right, or to become defensive against your truth? Well, he's going to say, that's not true. I put you through college. I bought you your first car. I showed you love. I paid the bills around here, right? I bought you the home that you and your mother wanted. The list goes on. And so that's another example of gaslighting. Another example would be something like, no, nothing's going on. I don't know what you're talking about. It must just be you. And you may be crying and upset and having a really hard time, expressing your emotions. And the person says, everything's fine. I don't know why you're so upset. And in here, everything's not fine. So gaslighting and triangulation, that's what they're talking about. And I'm glad, because I was going to go to that once I got back to my suggestions for you. So, all right. So let's keep going. Hello. Happy New Year, Dragon Man Assassin. So glad to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Courtney Fraser, hello, nice to see you. Happy New Year to you. Says, hi, I thought this was starting at 9. I did not get a notification yet that it already started. Oh, I'm so sorry. So here's what's going on with YouTube. There are certain YouTubers, I don't consider myself a YouTuber, but we'll say that, myself included. Some of you are not getting notifications. So here's what you may have to do. Hit the notification bell again to kind of take yourself off those notifications, and then hit it again to be back on the notifications. See if that helps. That helped about 10 other people who follow me on YouTube. I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry. I'm waiting on YouTube to kind of get back to me on that one. But kind of unsubscribe your notifications button and then hit it again so that you can kind of see if that resets the whole process. I hope that makes sense. I don't sound like I'm making sense. I hope that makes sense. But try that. And yes, it was starting at 9. I started earlier because I want to get out and I want to get you guys off this live chat. Okay, so let's go back to what my suggestions are. I don't want to get caught up in some of the conversation and you guys lose time and I lose time. I'll read yours, Courtney Fraser. Courtney Fraser says it is hard when challenges such as disabilities. Oh boy. Okay, it is hard when you're okay. I can't make sense out of that comment, Courtney. Um, okay, if you reword that for me, then I can read that. I'm sorry. I'm not getting what that sentence means. Hello, Sovereign Dirt. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. All right. Okay. Let's go back to this. Okay, guys. So I think I left off at avoid triangulation. Now, here's something I talked about years ago on my channel. I have a video. I'll try to post it in the description box for you. The video is titled, Why Do I Love My Abuser? Why do I love my abuser? And I really pick apart and tease apart why are you so entwined with someone who's abusive. So my next suggestion to distance and detox from unhealthy and dysfunctional family is to pause, maybe do some of the reflection I talked about at the beginning of the video, but pause and ask yourself, why do I give myself a hard time for having walked away from my family? Why do I struggle with some of the things they're telling me and some of the things that they're saying I'm doing that's not true? Why am I becoming emotionally susceptible to their further abuse? Why am I still in that position of victim under them? You may also want to ask yourself too, why do I still love them? Okay, they're my family and we're connected by blood, but they've abused me, they've harmed me, they've manipulated me. Why am I still feeling this way with them when I know that I'm going to get hurt again? I've gone over those questions today with my clients, the ones who have struggled after the holidays, and they were really shocked, really shocked today that their answers had a lot to do with the social influence of what family is. It's the whole concept of family is everything. You're nothing without your family. Family is a wonderful thing. Family should be with you. Those of you who have followed me for years, you know what I'm getting ready to say, that family is not everything when they hurt you. And when they hurt you, you have the right to make that decision as to whether you're going to stay or go. Forgiveness, yes. Should you give people second chances? Yes. Should you be loving and embracive? Yes. However, you don't want to get so entwined and codependent and trauma bonded, for example, that you can't walk away when you know you need to walk away. So my next suggestion is to ask yourself, why do I still love my abuser? Why do I still feel we're like this when they've mistreated me? Why can't I just forget them and walk away? Your answers may surprise you, and it may be what you need to explore, maybe even with a therapist. The next thing is don't get swept up in the emotion that gets stirred up when special things happen. So birthdays, funeral anniversaries, holidays, all of that kind of stuff, right? I have a client right now who is feeling pretty depressed, and what they're telling me is this: that okay, February is this family member's birthday, March is the anniversary of this death, May is the anniversary of my failed marriage, June, and they're like just going through all of these months, and I'm like, oh my god. So you want to disengage from that emotion by kind of putting some distance between you and those special dates, because one or two things can happen. One is you're going to put yourself back in that harmful situation and have a hard time walking away, or two, you're going to long for the good sides of things with your family, and you're just going to have that cognitive dissonance, that state of inconsistent thoughts. Like it's all jumbled up in your mind and in your heart. It doesn't really make sense. So keep that in mind. You also want to disengage from the fights and the arguments, disengage from emails, disengage from cell phone conversations, from text messages, chat rooms, Snapchats. I have so many people that come in and they're like, you know what? I blocked that person on my email, but I didn't block them on my Facebook, and I didn't block them on my Snapchat, and I didn't block them on my cell phone. Why? So there's like a little small desire to hear from them or to get something about them. And if you're really adamant about putting up that boundary between you and an unhealthy dynamic, then block all the way around, especially if that's going to be good for your mental health. So detach from the situation by blocking all the way around, not just one channel, two channels, but all the way around. And that's hard, right? If you're an uncle or an aunt or a sibling and there's kids involved and there's nieces and nephews involved and cousins, it just gets so complicated. But if you can find some way to put up that healthy boundary without hurting everybody, including yourself, that's probably in your best interest. Don't block one channel. You want to be able to just block several. Okay. I also suggest forgiving yourself. I think when you've walked away from your family or you're having thoughts of not being engaged with them, the last thing you're going to think is that you're going to suffer with guilt, shame, regret. The list goes on. So just be mindful that that's going to pop up multiple times at different times in your life. I had someone consult with me 4 weeks ago before the holiday, 4 weeks ago, and he's done really good for the past 2 years of not dealing with his abusive family. He was adopted into his family. The family abused him. Okay. I mean, it was serious and severe abuse. And he is paralyzed because of it. The sad part is that there are certain times of the year where holidays and anniversaries come up, and he's ready to contact his adopted family. He's ready to talk with them. He's ready to engage with them. And he's ready to just, make everything right. And so then he starts feeling guilty and he starts feeling shame. And it's just this whole debacle. It's this whole whirlpool of issues. So I've been working with him on forgiving him. That sounds wrong too. Forgiving himself for walking away and making a very brave decision of not communicating with his family. So forgive yourself, right? And work on that as you go along. And lastly, be wise with how you communicate. Again, watch your cell phone communication, your text communications, your Snapchats, your Facebooks, you know, be mindful of what that communication is saying. Sometimes communication is saying more than you think it's saying. Sometimes communication is saying, I miss you. Sometimes communication is saying, I love you. Sometimes communication is saying, I need you in my life, whether you realize it or not. So, if you're trying to detach and detox, be aware of what your verbal and your nonverbal communication is saying. All right, I'm going to get to the chat box, guys. Make sure I haven't neglected any of you, and then we're going to wrap up. I have a video coming up for you guys, I think next couple of videos, where I'm going to give you scenarios that you may have experienced within your own unhealthy family, and I'm going to give you suggestions on how to manage those kind of situations. An example of that video may be this. Let's say you have a family member, your mother, who has cancer and she's dying. You've decided because she's abused you that you're just going to back out of the situation. So if your mom says something to you like, you never supported me, and I don't understand that, for everything that I've done for you, I don't know why you don't support me. Would you know what to say in return? In my next video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to respond to that. And you can kind of use what I'm going to give you in that next video to navigate all of your family relationships. So stay tuned for that. All right. So Cherry's Jubilee. I feel like I don't get to your comments. Forgive me. That's not it. It's just that you're holding really good conversations and I can never keep up with if I'm at the beginning or the end. That's all it is. But okay. So Pastry Pink Tea says, what do you call it when the chaos of the narcissist family is so loud and when it's finally quiet and calm in the house, why does it feel hectic and feel like something is missing? Oh, that's such an excellent question. You want to take my seat? I think that was so good. Okay, let me explain what's going on. Okay, you ready for this? So there's this whole idea of equilibrium, psychological equilibrium, if I can speak tonight. Here's what it means: that sometimes if you've gone through trauma, you've gone through toxic family dynamics for years, you've gone through harm and emotional pain, you're so used to everything being, what's the word, topsy turvy or uneven or traumatic and chaos, that when everything is calm, your brain, so the amygdala, which is this little almond sign structure right up here in the middle of the brain, and it has a lot to do with emotion management, emotional memories, things like that, trauma, flashbacks, the list goes on. I talk about it all the time on the channel. Your amygdala is saying something is off because I'm so used to being submerged in chaos that when it's calm, it's abnormal for me to function. There's no threat around and there's nothing for me to look at. So let's get some chaos going because I can't function when it's calm. So it's called disequilibrium. It's that searching for this because that's all you've ever known, instead of what most people search for, which is this equilibrium and balance. Your brain can't do that because you've been like this half your life or through so many situations. I hope that makes sense, but that's exactly what's going on there. Okay, Marquisa Stewart says, yes, I have experience writing. I have experience writing is therapeutic healing, Tamara. Yes, it is. It really is. I agree. I will just throw this in here, and this is not a plug, I promise you. But I will throw this in here. So I just got done writing a book on for adolescents with a publishing company, New Harbinger Publications. The book is coming out in February on the 1st, and the book is about racial trauma and multi-ethnic families like my own. And while I did the writing, this was a 2-year book. So, and working with a publishing company, it's like a lot more time than you would if you self-publish, just because there's a company and there's publicity and the list goes on. There's like a ton of things going on. But as I was writing for the past 2 years, this book, let me say, I got to places where I wrote chapters and I became tearful. I wrote chapters and I explored things in my own heart that I didn't know was there. I explored things in my own mind that I didn't know that I thought at a tender age of 10 and 13 and 20 and 19, and the list goes on. So writing is therapeutic. And within my own book, that was kind of like my reflection time. I would actually write chapters right as I was going to bed, because that's when my mind was free enough to kind of think. So you're right, Marquisa. Writing is very, very therapeutic. You know, you never know. You may put all that stuff down on paper that you're feeling and you're thinking, and it might become a bestseller one day. So kind of look at it from that angle. You never know. It may be a book. Okay. The right group SEO. Hello, welcome. So glad to see you. I haven't seen you in so long on a chat. I'm glad to see you. Oh geez. Don't tell me I did it again. Yes, I did. I hit the wrong button. All right, the technologist. Oh, I love that spelling. That's so cool. Says you have a very nurturing aura, Tamara. Oh, thank you. Everybody says that. That's so sweet. Thank you. It is obvious you're here to help, not just rack up views and subscribers. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me tell you this briefly, and then we're gonna go. Okay, because I don't want to keep you guys any longer, and I got to get out of here. I started on YouTube with 5 subscribers, and I started as a brand new therapist, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. To be very honest, I'm gonna tell you, I like put up my cell phone. I'm like, okay, does it go this way or this way? Or, I don't know what the heck I was doing. And then as I developed over time, you guys just started subscribing. Why? Not so much because I asked for it, but because you felt heard. And so I think that's the key to YouTube. You have to feel heard. That might be something you guys want to consider with the suggestion, excuse me, that I gave you earlier about getting the right education. You want to go to channels where you feel heard, not channels where you feel talked at, but channels where you feel like you're engaging and you're growing and you're learning and you're healing. Okay, Courtney Fraser says, I feel, oh, Thank you very much for that, by the way, the technologist. Thank you. Courtney Fraser says, I felt like the problem child. Yes. So let me briefly throw this in here that there are family roles in the field of psychology. The first is known as the hero or the rescuer. That's the family individual who rescues everybody. There's the scapegoat, right? The person who gets blamed for all the family issues when the real issue is everybody, not just you, right? There's the lost child. The lost child is who my mom was growing up, right? Who some of you probably are, feeling like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Why did I have to have a family like this? What is this all about, right? There's also a role, the triangulator is another role, but there's also a role, and it switches depending on what you're reading online. But one is the drug addict or the addict, and that's the family member who's a sex addict, a love addict, a relationship addict. The list just goes on. So those are roles. But then, Courtney, there's also the problem child, and that role I highly doubt is you, just based on some of the things that you've said to me in comments, and list goes on. The problem child is the one who just does everything wrong to destabilize a family. They set fires, they hurt animals, they're in and out of, detention centers. They have oppositional defiant disorder, they have conduct disorder. The list just goes on. That's the problem child, the child that you don't want to leave in a house alone because you're afraid you may come back to the house being burned down. That's the problem child. You probably feel like that, Courtney, because of how your family has treated you. But I hope that you detach emotionally from that identity just based on what I just explained. Okay, Ricardo Rodriguez, so nice to see you. I probably said that wrong, but so nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. He says they forged my signature and stole my money and property. Oh boy. Is there any way to prove that, Ricardo? Because if you can prove that, then you're home free. You don't even have to worry about trying to prove it to law enforcement because you have the proof right in front of them. If you can't prove it, I would just get everything changed. This is just my honest therapeutic suggestion. I would get everything changed. My phone, my account numbers, my passwords. Protect yourself for future reference if you can. Cherry's Jubilee says, you can't determine your worth. You don't know who values you or how. You only get to decide what you value. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you, Cherry's Jubilee. Nat, hello, Nat. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Says, I cut off for real from my family today. It has been years in the making. Me seeing the double standards between my brother and my treatment, was enough to say goodbye. Yeah, absolutely. And I hate to say this because I don't want to promote the idea that I'm saying walk away. I'm only saying walk away if your family hurts you. Walk away if your family does this repeatedly, not because they did something you need to forgive, not because they did something that just hurt your feelings and maybe you need to mature and get over it. I'm not talking about that. I mean, this is constant, consistent, persistent hurt and harm that's traumatic at this point, right? It's far exceeded the line of forgiveness. So if you've walked away and that's what you felt that you had to do, Nat, I applaud you. Sometimes it's not as easy as it appears, it's easier said than done. I hope this live chat, if you go back and watch it, is going to be helpful to you as you walk away. So let me know how that goes for you. One Love says absolutely correct. Made of Rubber, hello, welcome to the channel. Glad to see you. Says new law will have it if you smoke cigs, weed, booze, or illegal drugs around your kids or using while pregnant, you'll be sentenced with a child neglect felony. Yeah, that is true. And there are also some states where therapists are now being forced to turn parents in who are doing those things or where the therapist suspects that those things are happening. So it might be good for the children, but that law can be abused. Mastiff Mom, hello, welcome to the chat. No worries. I see you say that you're late. It's okay. I hope you go back and view it. Says, should I go to live or should I go to live or start from the beginning? I would start from the beginning. So I'm getting ready to end, guys. I would start from the beginning and then, I would watch it from the beginning. I think it's going to make better sense that way. Life should be easy. Hello, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Says smear campaigns. Yes, those are tough. Yes, they are. Family member over here says something bad about you. Another family member over there says, you know what, that is true. She does treat me rudely. Grandma over there says, you know what, these kids today are not respectful. Uncle John over there saying, yeah, maybe she needs to go back to school and get her manners. So yes, smear campaigns are the worst. The best way to deal with smear campaigns, don't engage, let it go. I know it hurts. I know it stings. You probably don't like it. It probably makes you feel a certain way. But if you don't engage, you don't give it power. If you don't engage, you don't give it battery power, right? Disengage, say, I'm not going to do this with you. That's not where I want to be. That's not my value system. And I guarantee you, they will just scratch their head like, why isn't this getting to her? Like, I don't understand what's going on. Yeah. So shock them. Don't even engage. Sunflower Heather says, I made it. Yes, you did make it. You did. You're awesome. Thanks for your good guidance always. Yes, you're welcome. And thank you so much for saying that. That's so sweet. All right, guys, I don't want to miss anything. Let me just go through really quickly, make sure I haven't missed any questions, comments. Yes, you can. Aspen Walker says, can I ask you a question? Is that for me or is that for someone else? Green Dragon, I'm going to look for you, Aspen Walker. If that was you asking me if you could ask a question. Green Dragon, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Happy New Year to you. Okay. Green Dragon says, I'm never heard by my father. Never. Yeah, absolutely. Keep in mind that sometimes parents have their own traumas, their own, their own family dynamics that have been really bad for them growing up. So sometimes I think that block with parents, I had a family member today say that you're not hearing me. I think sometimes that block, or just not being able to see what you're going through is sometimes unintentional, even when they are toxic. Sometimes that toxic family member just strictly doesn't get you. And it's not that they're not trying to get you, they can't. You can't do what you can't do. Is that what I'm trying to say? Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, Sean Hammer says, in the end, it will become obvious that I'm wasting my time trying to be heard. Yeah, absolutely. Don't even do it. Like I said earlier, disengage, let it go. I know that's hard. And sometimes those things hit your heart and your blood pressure just skyrockets, right? And you want to get back at them, but it's just not worth it. Just don't do it. Rise above. Okay, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Thank you very much. I see you, Sunflower Heather. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Okay. All right. I'm just following, just following. Thank you, Green Dragon, for all the hearts. One Love says, it's the same with my ex family. I never gave them permission to use me as the scapegoat nor anything else. Yeah. Sometimes you get into families and you're just automatically assigned a role, or sometimes you're just raised up in a family and you're automatically assigned a role. And it doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. It's the dynamic that was there before you got there that created that role for you. All right, guys, I have to say goodnight to you. I love doing chats with you and I love how you guys support each other. That's beautiful. Do know that I go back through, I actually rewatch this myself every live chat. And I try to make sure that I take all of your comments into consideration so that I can bring you more videos that relate to you, that you connect with. So just know that whatever you post, I'm using it for more content. So love you guys so much. I always say that. Happy New Year to you. I hope these tips have been helpful. Stay tuned for my next video on this topic. I'm going to sign off. Have a good night, guys. Hello, V. I just saw you sign on. I'm going to say hello to you. All right. Good night, guys. Bye-bye.